where we as developers introduce you guys to the newest SAP technologies. Before we start, I would like to point some things out. My name is Kim. My colleague Peter is joining at home for some inexplicable reason. And we are going to talk about Event Mesh today. Now, every one of you is muted, so yeah, you can understand us clearly. The session will also be recorded for watching afterwards. You can chat with us, and questions will be handled at the end of the sessions. We plan the Q&A, so no problems there. So if you have a question, put it in the chat, and we'll handle it at the end of the session. So, Event Mesh. Some questions we got from our customers is, for example, I want to decouple my receiving systems from my master system. What does it mean? It means, of course, you as a sender, you want to send your messages, you want to go through your receiver, but without any interruptions, and you don't want your receiver to be down, to not be able to receive your messages. But you, as a receiving system, do not want your message immediately. You want to wait for it. This is something Event Mesh is perfect for, and we'll talk about it later. Second of all, how do I capture events from S/4HANA in real time? Since this is really what SAP is looking forward to, Event Mesh is perfect for capturing events, and we'll handle this in the demo as well. S/4HANA and events and SAP Event Mesh are perfect for working with each other, and they can absolutely be captured in real time. But more about that later. The small agenda I would like to show you. What are we going to talk about today? So what is an event mesh, or what is an event mesh? What are the benefits? How does it work? The main three things you want to know, of course, today. And then we have a very specific demo. Since it was Valentine yesterday, we put a little team into it. And yeah, of course, to end some takeaways and handling your questions. So Peter will start by explaining what exactly is an event.
Yes, thank you, Kim.
Yes.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's difficult to talk about event mesh if you don't fully understand what an event is, basically. So, what is an event? Basically, when something happens, it can be an event. Your son is born, or your daughter is born, child is born. It's an event. If Corona breaks out in the world, it's an event. If a cost center changes in your system, it's an event, right? So everything can be an event. And the funny thing about events is you want to spread the word there has been an event. So if something happens, you want to notify the world, basically, to let them know someone or something is happened. There are a couple of types of events. For example, we have the notification event. This is a very small, basic event, just saying something has happened. For example, a child is born. Very basic. If you want to know more about this event, you will have to ask additional information. What's his name? What time was he born? And so on. We also have data events. This is basically the same thing, but with more information attached to the event. So we have already more information inside. And to round off, we have at the bottom here a small example of an event. In this case, it's a sale order creation event coming from S4. So this is a kind of example you could expect from S4 system sending you an event about a sales order. Okay, so we want to spread the word that there has been an event. So we need something to handle these events, right? Events or messages also. So here comes into play our event mesh. So what is Event Mesh, basically? It's a full managed service in the cloud, which helps us to connect application, services, and systems to interact with each other through messages or events, what we just explained. And basically, we try to replace the more traditional point-to-point communication where systems are communicating directly to each other. So Event Mesh is a central message broker, basically. Now let's put one step back. If you have a look at the SAP integration suite, there are a lot of stuff. Most people have already seen this slide somewhere along the road. Event Mesh, in this slide, it's in the left bottom corner there, Event Mesh. And we also have other components in the integration suite. For this session and demo, we, of course, are putting the focus on Event Mesh together with Cloud Integration or CPI. So this is what we will show, how these two components can work together and how you can use them together as well.
Yes, thank you, Peter. So now that you know what Event Mesh is and where it's situated inside the BTP environment, I'm going to show you some benefits. You saw the first one already. The main thing it can do, and I talked about it in the quotes at the beginning, is it decouples your senders and receivers, which means Event Mesh is actually a box in between which orchestrates everything that's happening from message sending and message receiving. So your sender does not have to wait for a critical or non-critical response from your receiver if it's down or there's some downtime, and your receiver can take his time. So maybe a month from now, your receiver is ready to consume the message from Event Mesh, and that's when he will do it. And Event Mesh, just keeps your message inside his queue. More about that later. So the receiver can consume it. So perfect for this. Second of all, scalability. So when you're doing classic point-to-point communication, you can handle a number of systems, but once you're going really big, you're handling a huge amount of systems. Yeah, maintainability can be a bit harder, of course. But Event Mesh is made to handle this and can reliably consume and send and receive messages to a lot of systems. Last but not least, it's called Event Mesh, so it has to be able to handle events. It can do this. Yeah, you can handle it with a webhook. More about that later. Or S4HANA has a built-in event add-on which you can use to push events to SAP Event Mesh. And because it's something you guys will probably meet in the future, I want to zoom in on this a little bit because S4HANA is the future, of course. And S4HANA has the built-in add-on for events. So what does S4HANA do? It sends an event to the MQTT protocol, which is one of the three protocols Event Mesh is able to handle, and straight into Event Mesh. How that actually gets into Event Mesh, we'll talk about that later. But when Event Mesh receives this, it's automatically coupled to CPI. CPI has an adapter or maybe even a webhook which receives the message, and then CPI can fetch all the data necessary from S4HANA because an event, as Peter told us, is mostly a very small amount of information. So in CPI, you get all your data from S4HANA and to the system that wants to receive it eventually. So this is really what SAP is looking forward to. Instead of using change pointers and IDOCs like we do today, this is the way events are going to happen in the future. So really interesting stuff. How does it work? Peter, the floor is yours.
Yes. Okay, so we have this event mesh in the middle. So we will need some way of communicating with it, right? So first of all, we will need to create an instance or a message client. We will use these names in different scenarios. Basically, it means the same. The only difference is from the point you're looking. So here we have the screenshots from the SAP Cloud cockpit. And here we are talking about instances. So basically, we create an instance of SAP Event Mesh. And each instance will have its own credentials, its own namespace, and also its own queues. These queues are the heart of Event Mesh, and Kim will explain this a bit later on. In this screenshot, for example, you can see we have created 4 Event Mesh instances. If we change view, now we go into the UI of Event Mesh. Here we see the same information, but now it's called a message client. So a message client and an instance is the same thing. This will help you to give access to the Event Mesh with unique credentials and also specific queues. Of course, if we if you would like a scenario where one message client communicates with queues from the other one, we can also arrange that in the configuration. That's no problem. And also, I talked about queues. Here we see a list of all the queues in our system. This is cross message client, basically. So these are all the queues for all the message clients. And this is where our messages or our events will be put in. And Kim will explain you how this works and how this is all connecting to each other.
Indeed, Peter. So yeah, we're talking about queues a lot, but how is it actually handled inside of Event Mesh? So we have a little bit of a schematic view of that. So this is the most simple situation inside of Event Mesh. You have a queue that's that has a one-on-one relationship with your receiver, which the sender can send his message to. The queue is inside of Event Mesh, as Peter shown you just before. What this does, the sender just sends you the queue, and the queue is immediately connected straight to one receiver. That's the simplest situation, but there's another level inside of Event Mesh, which shows that there's also a possibility to add topics. Now, what's a topic? A topic is nothing more or nothing less than actually a small container where you can put your message into, but it does not keep the message. It actually just distributes it, which means you have the sender here. It sends a message to the topic. The topic just knows there is a message, but it does not contain the message. And then the topic will be distributed through the queues. How that works, we will show in the demo, because a queue has to be subscribed to a topic, not the way around. And of course, your queue has a one-on-one relationship with your receiver again. So this means you can expand and you can have different queues being subscribed to a topic. And then you have a third option, which is using a webhook for synchronous communication, for example. The sender sends to the queue, and the nice thing is you can make your webhook, subscribe your webhook inside of Event Mesh. So when a message is sent, then the receiver immediately receives the message as well, but the webhook will notify your consumer through a HTTP call immediately. So for events, for example, this is a really interesting way to go. Just to make a small step clear, how do you consume a queue? Which is you have the queues, but then you have the step to the receiver. There are three main ways you can do it. You can do it through the API from Event Mesh itself. You can do it through middleware. CPI is, of course, the main example for this. Or you can consume it through events, which, for example, the webhook I just told you about. So that's what's happening inside of Event Mesh, how it looks like Peter's shown you. But yeah, maybe an example or a demo to show you how this actually goes down. So yesterday was Valentine. To stay a bit in the spirit of it, we decided to make a Valentine demo. So we actually made a state-of-the-art Flexso dating application. But before I show you, let me just show you the use case for the demo we will show you in a bit. So we have Barbara here, and she's looking for a date. She's tired of the usual stuff. I'm not going to name names. There are some very popular dating apps, but she wants to try something new. She's looking a bit, Googling a bit, and she finds out that Flexso has a brand new dating app. And yeah, she knows Flexso is amazing, so she decides to download it. And she's pretty confident because she just wants to register, and she wants to have a blind date. She doesn't really care. She wants to register inside of Flexso, and she will find out who's interested in her, not the way around. Now we have me. I'm looking for a date as well. Just don't have my girlfriend, but I found out there was a Flexo app as well, but I'm a bit old-fashioned. I just want to have a mail or something. So I call Flexo and I ask them to subscribe me to the dating bureau. And when there's someone new for me, I just receive an email. So that's the way I want to receive my date. Then we have Peter. Peter is looking for a date as well. So, but he is a bit more modern minded, and he downloads the application just like Barbara did. But the Flexo application has a huge advantage. You can check every now and then, actually whenever you want, if there are some bachelors in your neighborhood. In our example, we would take Ghent as the region. So there are three use cases here. They all want to look for a date, but in some separate way. Now, to merge this all together into Event Mesh and how our demo will play out, Peter will explain it a bit to you, a bit more in detail.
Yes, I will. Let's
Yes.
hope my wife does not find out I'm playing with dating apps. This really could get me into trouble, but okay, let's go. Anyway, so what did we prepare for you as a demo? So first, let me explain it to you a bit here, and then let's dive into the system and show me what we did exactly. So inside Event Mesh, we have a topic. As Kim discussed, a topic does not really retain your message. It's just a mean of distributing it to one or more subscribed queues, right? In our case, we have two queues. We have one queue for the mailing list, the one Kim will be receiving. And then we also have a queue which will be read by the dating app itself. Okay, first of all, we have Barbara. She will push a message or an event to the topic saying, okay, I'm looking for someone and these are my details. So it will be pushed to the topic and from the topic to both queues. So both queues will have the message inside of them. Okay, next we have Kim. As we told you, Kim wants to receive an email. And because we want to have some additional information, we will not just fetch the information from the queue. We will also enhance the information from information we receive from SuccessFactors. So basically what will happen is we will read the queue CPI, we will do a call to SuccessFactors, we will get the image and some additional information. We put this into an email and send it to Kim. Me, on the other hand, I'm just using the application. So my application just will read the information which is in the queue, the information Barbara has put in there, and I will just receive it on my screen. So it will be less elaborate from information, but still I will see there is a match for me and I will have the information which is available. Okay, so how does this look in Event Mesh itself? Let me share my screen and show you in the system. There we go. So if all went well, you should see my screen. Okay, so this is the user interface of Event Mesh. And basically, this is the view you have already seen from the slides. This is the message clients. So as I explained to you already, each of these message clients is an instance which is configured in the Cloud Cockpit. And each of these message clients will have their own authentication, way of authentication. Also their own queues, basically. As you can see, we've created one specific client for this demo, the dating app. So let's dive in. And here we can see some overview of the specific message client. And here we can already see there are two queues and one webhook. Okay, let's start with the queues. Here we can see there is two queues, the ones we've seen also in the slide, one for the dating application and one for the mailing list. You can see whether or not there are messages inside. You can see the size and so on. For example, let's have a look at the queue and what's inside. So I left on purpose one message in this queue so I can show you. So here we have a test tab. Let's go there. And here we have also means to publish or consume messages from the queue. If you want to test some stuff, you can do it right here. It was in the dating application. You can see there's one message there. If I click on consume message, you will see the information which is in the queue. Okay, so this is how you can consult and test queues in the UI. So as you can see, now the queue is empty because I fetched the message from it. What else? We talked about topics. So topics we can subscribe to. So basically, a topic will just direct the message to one or more queues which are interested into it. There's no specific overview of topics in the screen, but you can see it right here. If you go to queue subscriptions, here you can see that my queue is subscribed to the topic of Ghent right here. This will, and also for the other one. So this will ensure that when the message comes in on the topic, it will be distributed to both of them. And then last but not least, we have created a webhook. So this webhook is connected to the mailing list queue. So basically, once a message comes in, this webhook will be triggered. What will it do? Well, it will make a call. It will make a call to our CPI environment, and there's a flow. So basically, this is the endpoint of that flow. So a message comes in, and this flow will be triggered, after which the data is retrieved and the mail is sent. But Kim will show you how this is done in CPI and also show you some other stuff as well.
Yes, indeed, Peter. I will just take over again for 1 second.
Please do.
Go. Yes. So I'm going to start where Peter just stopped right there. So we have our webhook, which has this URL with get date details inside of it, which is what CPI will eventually receive. So we have our CPI flow right here, which is mainly the flow just to fetch some extra information and eventually send the mail to me, because I'm the person that wants to receive a mail. And as you can see, our adapter, 1 small second, our adapter is actually called get date details. So that's how the connection works here to our actual flow. But yeah, as you can see, I'm going to show it eventually. Here you go. So you have our get date details here. And through HTTP, you can connect your webhook. So we get the user details, and eventually the mail gets sent to me. And that's all done immediately because I want to consume the message immediately. Now, that's everything that happens when I do one click in AppGyver, actually, in our new application. So let's see how it works. I am Barbara right now, and I want to register because she wants a blind date. And she needs to fill in her information right here. So her name is Barbara. She's 31 years old, female, and she's from Ghent. And her email is Jones. And yeah, her number, of course, because you want to call your new date. So she registers. And in this one click, a lot of stuff happened. I'm going to go to Event Mesh right now. As Peter just shown you, you have the queues. And you can see in my dating app queue, there's already one message waiting. But in the mailing list queue, there are 0 messages. Why? Because I immediately consumed this. And I should have an email now. And here you go, with a new date. So I'm very happy. This email shows some extra information because we did the fetch to success factors. So for example, I know she's painting and traveling and what's her occupation. But Peter, on the other hand, yeah, it's still in the queue right here, and he did not decide yet to consume his message. So he did not consult his application. He could do it tomorrow or maybe after a week, maybe even a month. But when he goes to AppGyver, in the application, he can check it here. Oh, okay, is there someone near Ghent? Let's look it up. He looks it up, and oh, very nice. We have Barbara here. So he knows a little bit less information because he does not care about emails and extra information, but he knows her age and he can contact her. So perfect. So what I want to show with this is, yeah, we consumed it in 2 separate ways, and it's completely decoupled from the sender, which was this application. It could send your message, but the one receiver wants to receive it immediately. The other one wants to wait a bit and consume it later. So it's a short demo, but it shows perfectly what's possible with this. Now, let's just, you saw the demo and we spoke about Event Mesh. Let's see what what's the most important thing you need to remember after we told you all of this? First up, I told it a couple of times, it's easy to decouple senders and receivers. We've shown it in the demo. I mentioned it a couple of times that it's one of the main benefits. And yeah, as I told you, you can wait for a long time as a receiver, and as a sender, you don't have to wait for a response if you don't need to, or you can just send to Event Mesh and it will handle. Then second of all, Peter,
Yeah.
will be the second takeaway.
Yeah. Yes, by using Event Mesh, it will also become more reliable, basically, sending and receiving messages, because as Kim told you, you're decoupling. So once it's sent, it has been sent. The sender has no further responsibility of delivering the message. That's for the receiver. Also, because you do not point to point. If the load comes too big, you can also spread it with Event Mesh. So all in all, the reliability becomes much higher by using Event Mesh than in any other scenario, basically.
Indeed. And last but not least, we really want to express that it's a future-proof way to gather and orchestrate events because it's called Event Mesh. We already mentioned it a couple of times as well at the beginning. We took the time to explain what an event is. Event Mesh is really made for this. So if you need to work with events inside of the BTP system, then Event Mesh is really for you. So yeah, I hope you guys remembered something, took something away from this. We really think it's a fast and useful tool to use, and we really recommend it to everyone who really wants to get into it. But yeah, if you have a question, now's the time. And thank you for joining today. Let's see if we. Before we end, I really want to mention as well that we have a new Dev2Dev session coming up, which I mentioned AppGyver a bit before. And yeah, the low no-code application platform that we want to use right now is AppGyver. We actually made this app with AppGyver as well. So if you're interested in that, feel free to join next time. And let's dive into some questions. So shoot, guys, it's the moment to send some questions to us. Let's have a look.
Unless we explained it too well, like Kim, then there won't be any questions in the
That's
chat.
probably the case, Peter.
Yes, indeed. Event Mesh is exactly that. So it's your central message broker where you send your messages to, and he will handle, and there they will remain until the receiver gets the messages from it, basically. Yes, it's your central message broker, indeed.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the main things I want to express as well. It's the central aspect of it. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The maximum message size limit for one message is 1 megabyte, and for the complete client, it's 10 gigabytes. But yeah, you have the advantage. Events are very small messages, extremely small even, and the maintainability of keeping them for a long time inside of Event Mesh is of course the biggest advantage. But those are the size limits to Event Mesh.
Currently, you cannot. So basically, you've seen the UI of Event Mesh. You can see the queues. You can see how many messages are in the queues, but you cannot see the queues displayed themselves. Currently, that's not available yet. I'm not sure if it's foreseen in the future. To be honest, the only way you can pull some messages out of the queue and then display the content, but currently there's no view available to show you the view without pulling them off the queue. No.
Can we integrate Event Mesh in the standard CPI monitoring tool? At the moment, it's not possible, but Event Mesh has some limited capabilities of seeing your queues and numbers inside of the queue. But yeah, it's still the point is of making CPI and Event Mesh work with each other. But at this point in time, they want to keep it separated. But of course, it's a really good idea of integrating it inside of the monitoring side.
Yeah. Also, one small remark on this question.
Mhm.
We also have a SAP ALM. SAP ALM also allows you to monitor, for example, CPI, and it can also integrate with Event Mesh. I must be honest, I did not really investigate that completely, but I do know it's possible to integrate Event Mesh with ALM. So it might also be possible to monitor both CPI and Event Mesh from ALM. So that's also something to look into if this is your interest.
Okay. Concerning licenses, I would have to check, but I'm pretty sure it is. Yes, you can. I did not check the exact pricing and stuff, but yeah, when you use certificates and stuff, they are separated. But yeah, I think on the license part they are connected. I should check. Good question though. Yeah. Well, that depends on how you consume your message, of course, because, for example, CPI is able to retry messages or loop messages 10,000 or 100,000 at a time. So in that case, it would be possible, but it's of course up to the consumer of you to how you consume it.
Yeah.
By standards, yeah, protocol, it's one by one, but it is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think perhaps also this question is a bit related to the demo we shown. In our case,
Yeah.
yes, they will be processed one by one
Yeah.
because that's how we have currently set it up. But of course, this is all depending on how you set up your process at a whole.
Yeah. Oh, the other two are HTTP and AMQT. For the moment, AMQT is the one, the adapter that you use inside of CPI. The HTTP is, for example, when you connect to a webhook, which we did in the demo. And then MQTT is actually when you go from SAP to HANA to Event Mesh. So there are three in total. And yeah, it's more than enough to do everything you need inside of Event Mesh.
You can delete. Currently, you cannot. At least in the UI, you cannot delete messages one by one. Yeah, you can do it. You can do the testing. I've shown you in the demo. You can also purge the queue, but currently I did not found any way to say I want to delete message 10 out of 50, for example. No, I don't think that's currently possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, when it's temporarily down, what Event Mesh will do is just keep the message inside his queue uh, until the point that the consumer is ready to consume it. So, yeah, this is actually one of the main advantages of Event Mesh.
Yeah, because it's really asynchronous communication.
Yeah,
So it does not care if the consumer is down.
yeah,
From the moment the consumer is back up and running, he can just consult the queue and take the messages in as normal.
yeah, indeed. Do we have some more? Oh, this is maybe something, Peter, you can show because you hooked up the webhook to the CPI flow.
Yes, currently I've done it via basic authentication
Yeah,
because
good.
it was obvious just a demo. There are also other ways of doing that, but I need to double check that. Um, Yeah, I don't know it by heart, to be honest. I know there are other ways but you can also have authentication added. I also believe there's like kind of handshake procedure you can also do, but if you want to details for that, I can look them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, the advantage of a webhook is you can authenticate it to your receiver in any way you want. Because yeah. All right, guys. I think we're gonna finish on this one. Would like to thank you for joining. Please join the next one on AppGyver if you're interested. It's really interesting. And for those who ate, have a nice meal, maybe. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.